much really to report other than we're finishing up. Because of COVID, they have delayed our BAA cases. And so we actually have 4 cases that will go October 1st, all on the same day. So that's one trip down to Denver for all of us that it's good to wrap up 2019. And as we look forward, we're working on 2021, which June 30th, 2020 recently was our appraisal date. So we celebrated downstairs. That's like an annual holiday for us every 2 years. That's a New Year's in our office. So we're working on values for you guys. I know you're very anxious to hear. We're going to start working on updating numbers, finishing our sales confirmation, and start working on 2021.
All right.
Thank you.
Just in the mail, did get the state assessed. I'm sure you got a copy too.
I did get the state assessed, and it
so
showed a big increase on Rush Creek.
great.
So it was 18 million versus 3 million. So we
Yeah.
have a big increase there. Oil and gas, bad,
dropped, yeah.
very bad. But I will put numbers together for you officially because I'm still receiving declarations on oil and gas.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Alrighty. Any from the staff? Seeing none. This is, we'll now move on to citizen public comment. If we have anybody in the room that wanted to make comment today. I'll invite you up at this point, since you're not specifically on. Ladies,
Good morning.
it's that time of year. Huh?
It is. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, yeah, if you want to pull it down, that's fine.
Okay.
That's,
I have to wear it at work because
Right.
it's recommended and demanded by COVA, or not by COVA, by DORA.
yeah.
So I'm used to wearing my mask.
yeah.
I take it off every hour so I can breathe a little bit better and go in the back room. Anyway, I'm Mary Louise Jacobson. I'm the Elbert County Fair Royalty Coordinator, along with Shauna Royston, who is my right-hand lady. And we are here today to talk about the fair and the parade and things that are happening here in the county with the royalty. We are glad to be here this morning with you and express our ideas and what we're going to say, and have to invite you guys to the parade probably. As of today, Saturday, we will be having our royalty competition at 10 a.m. at the fairgrounds. The horsemanship will be at 10, and then we go from that over to the Ag Building for the afternoon events. As of today, we will be, I have to talk to Dwight to find out a few answers that people have been asking me, and I don't know the answers to yet. So I got to get to him. I did call him early this morning, but didn't get an answer yet. And I think that everything that you guys have been doing has been helpful. We are understanding it, and we're grateful that the Fair Board has allowed the 4-H'ers to go ahead to have the fair. It'll be so different though.
Yeah.
It'll be so different, and I'm really hoping that those of the parents and those that are allowed to come, I don't know how many are going to be allowed, but the girls can address that, and I will introduce them now.
Alrighty.
This is Cassidy Linhart, our queen, and this is Lita Noe, our princess. Okay, your turn, girls.
Alright.
All right, well, so like Mary Louise said, my name is Cassidy Linhart, and I am your 2020 Elbert County Fair Queen, and I have really enjoyed this year and learned a lot, and even though like this year has been totally different, it has still been great, and I'm very glad that we are still able to have somewhat of a fair. It'll look a lot different, but we're still able to do a lot of stuff with it, so I'm happy about that, and we will still be having the parade, so come on out and come to the parade.
Alrighty.
So like she said, my name is Lita Noe, and I'm your 2020 Elbert County Fair Princess, and we are just grateful for this year. Even though it was cut short, we're just so thankful for everyone who's been by our side through it. So we just wanted to thank you guys for your time.
Well, Well, thank you for all you do. I mean, I know this year's been cut short, not only here, but I mean, I'm sure you're traveling to a lot fewer places. Yeah, I've always enjoyed, seeing you guys everywhere we go, and with fewer places to go.
Somebody could come and watch us a little bit on Saturday.
Saturday, yeah.
Do you have any idea how many people we can have? I mean, have you heard what, I don't know exactly.
The
It's outside.
outside social distancing, I think the caps are around 100 people. We've been silent on you can't come or you can, because it seems like every time you set a mark, something changes. So I think the Fair Board did a tremendous job in putting together a plan that allows at least the 4-H portion to go forward. And as we get closer to the end of the month, or as we see what the situation is, we may be able to get more in to spectate. But
Do the new outbreaks have any indication of what could happen with the fair?
It's all changes every time the governor walks to the microphone. So, I mean, I'd like to say more. I'd like to know more. I mean, it's just,
Well,
I mean,
so
it's
would
not, we all wish we had the crystal ball on this
Yeah,
one.
don't we?
Yeah.
We have God on our side, though.
Yes, always. So that is a good thing. Yeah, I was going to say, if there's anything you ladies need from us, I mean, certainly you've got our support. And we'll try to get there Saturday. I've got a.
Well, we're glad we could be here this morning and
Yeah.
talk to you and all those that are here and listening.
Yeah.
It would be fine to see you all, but I know the circumstances are such that we will not be seeing everybody as usual.
And you said you begin with horsemanship at 10? Is that?
Horsemanship at 10
10?
on Saturday morning at the
Okay.
main arena.
Okay, wonderful.
Okay?
Wonderful, thank you.
Well, you're welcome. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks.
I have a favor.
Yes.
Can you guys stand over by the
Oh.
flags and we can get a picture of you and the girls?
Alrighty, in terms of public comment from outside the room, my understanding is we had somebody that wanted us to call them during this session. Okay, and then I did receive one email from somebody that it was from a Roger and Judy, I believe it's either Will or Willie, residing at 9490 County Road 102 in Albert. And just really 2 points. They were concerned about what they felt was a lack of accommodation to citizens for the land use portion of today's meeting, either a change in meeting time and also the number of topics that are being covered at today's land use meetings. Concerned about limitations on attendance, and they believe that emails, phone calls, letters don't truly convey the urgency that is felt by them in this matter. Notes that we're making decision on items that set precedent and that affect land rights. They do request that in the future that we look at the interest and feedback in each application item submitted to CDS, that be monitored by the county manager, and if the volume of interest in an application, that should be taken into consideration for the scheduling of planning commission meetings and BoCC meetings. Make sure that we are accommodating citizens' First Amendment rights, that they can voice their opinions. and that recognizes this could result in scheduling of only one item per meeting, or adjusting meetings to facilitate more citizen input. So that was, I think you have a copy of the letter. Yeah, if you could attach that to the minutes. Alrighty. With that, I'll close public comment. Moving on to our first discussion item, and it looks like we have our auditors from Reuben Brown in the room, or at least on the screen. So welcome, Goats.
We do, Commissioners, and so we've got Matthew Marino and Rosie Group from Reuben Brown on the screen. Again, please be patient with us as we work through the technology. But I believe Matthew is going to drive his screen, and I'm going to make sure that we've got the audio working.
Okay.
So, Matthew, you want to say hello and make sure that everybody in the room can hear you? Oh, well, nope. Hold on. Let me make sure I am unmuted here. I am. Let's see.
Alrighty.
So hold on, let me okay, mute is off.
Hoping for it to
So
transmit over the projector, or
yeah, that's what I'm wondering, is that I was
Yeah.
under the assumption it was going to come through my computer,
yeah.
but it is not, because it is wanting to go through the projector. So hold on just one second.
Okay.
And let me see if I can get an audio connection here. Probably not. So I think
If you
you
go,
may all not get to see the slides on the screen, so that I can get the audio to come out here. So hold on.
okay.
No, I can't. Yeah, actually, you probably can. Why don't we do that?
Yeah.
Matthew, you want to try again? You still can't hear him. Oh, there it is. All right, try again, Matthew.
Test.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay. Is everybody able to hear me good?
Doesn't seem to be picking up on your mic though.
Okay, try it again.
Good morning, everybody.
Can you at least hear him? You may need to turn up your volume, Matthew. That's about as high as I can get mine turned up.
Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
Is that helping or not really?
It's helping a little bit. Let me see if I can turn it up any higher.
I can hear him really good. So,
Yeah.
must be in the room. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's the
What's the number on your microphone?
is there a way to turn it up? Try again?
Test, 1, 2, 3, test.
Is that better?
Test.
Okay. I think that's better, and Chris is adjusting there in the back.
Okay. Well, you let me know when you want me to start. I'll wait or are we good to go?
He's fiddling with knobs.
Perfect. Give me a thumbs up when you want me to actually kick off and we'll go. I'll just kind of talk so he can work on the volume while we wait for the actual presentation.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's about as good as we can get. There may be a little bit of feedback, but Michelle is over here. She's got your slides up on the screen, so I think we're good to go. So I'm going to mute myself, and you guys can go ahead and take over.
Perfect. Thank you so much for allowing us to present to you again. We did, as you may remember, we did talk about the results of the audit in draft form in June, and so a lot of this presentation will feel like a repeat from things we've already presented in June, but we wanted to wrap around and talk about the final results of the audit and inform the commissioners and everybody present of the results of the audit process. Here's our engagement team's contact information. Obviously, we're your independent auditors, and we do have to remain independent, but we're also there to serve as a resource for the county. And so if there's things that come up throughout the year, the management team has been fantastic about reaching out as things come up. Michelle, Sam, Eileen, as well as your external consultants, Jim Ray and his team. It's a very collaborative process, and so really, this is one of the entities that I think takes this slide seriously as far as collaborating and making sure that we serve the community well by addressing matters very soon. This year, consistent with prior years, we performed kind of two main types of audits. We audit the financial statements of the county, as well as we perform an audit over the federal expenditures of the county. The county received and expended more than $700 spent on various programs. We do audit those programs annually based on a risk assessment, and I'll talk about the results of that audit. We conducted our audits in accordance with our professional standards. There are limitations to our audit process. We don't re-perform 100% of all of the transactions entered into by the county. Otherwise, we'd be there virtually all year, just like the county accounting staff and finance staff are. Management does have some responsibility in this process. They're responsible for selecting and applying accounting policies and practices, establishing internal controls, identifying compliance with laws and regulations, designing and implementing controls to prevent and detect fraud, informing us as auditors if there's anything that we need to know about as related to suspected or alleged frauds, and making all financial records available to us. So our audit process is a multi-month process. We kind of kick it off in late fall, early winter every year, and so we start our audit process all the way back in December of 2019. Our interim procedures where we update our planning and risk assessment process. We update our understanding of how the county processes different transactions, if there was any changes in processes or personnel, and we all take that into consideration when we plan and perform our audit process. So we did our audit much like we've done in the past in 2020. Now, if we think back to April of 2020, that was an interesting time for all of us. And so I want to commend your team there, your finance team, really everybody within the county being highly collaborative to make sure that we could proceed with getting the audit done and started and done on time. If you look at where we're at in the audit process, we're virtually at the same time period we've been in the past in spite of the pandemic situation. And so that's the last mention I'm going to make of the pandemic, but I wanted to make sure I thanked your team for their ability to get us information in spite of everything else going on around them. The next several slides are my communications to you as governance. The left-hand side is what I'm required to communicate to you, and the right-hand side is my response. So we issued an unmodified report on the county's financial statements. We issued a report on internal control over financial reporting and compliance in accordance with governmental auditing standards. And then we issued an unmodified report on the compliance with each federal expenditure program. So what's that mean, unmodified? It's a cleanup opinion. It's the highest level of opinion I can issue on behalf of the county. And so that's consistent with what's been done in the past. You have received unmodified opinions across the board. There are a couple matters I'll talk about as far as controlled deficiencies, but unmodified opinions is the important thing to remember. We performed our audit in accordance with our plan, scope, and timing that was communicated via our engagement letter. During the year, we did have some different accounting standards and practices that we did have to update for. And so footnote 2 of the financial statements provides context and gives you narrative explanations and detail on the accounting policies and practices of the county. So a couple different standards that we had to implement this year. One thing I should point out is while this county did implement this, many other entities did not implement these standards as a result of the pandemic. And so GASB issued GASB 95, which I'll touch on later, that actually delayed the effective date of many of these accounting standards that we did implement this year. And so your team was on top of it and prepared. And so really the unplanned circumstances of this year really, other than maybe a little additional work on everybody's part to get it done, really didn't hinder the process. And so we implemented GASB 83, which had to do with asset retirement obligations, GASB 84, which had to do with fiduciary activities. And that's the biggest one where you'll see some changes to the financial statements that are presented. And the biggest change is because the county operates in a fiduciary manner where we collect revenues on behalf of other entities and pass those revenues on to the other entities. So we might collect property taxes or other sort of taxes and pass them on to either a fire district, a city, a town, a school district. All of that activity is presented in the fiduciary activities or the fiduciary statements. And so previously, we've always shown fiduciary statements in the past, but there's a lot more detail on the different types of funds within those fiduciary funds, as well as both a balance sheet and income statement for those fiduciary activities. And so I just want to point that out. GASB 88 has to do with some additional debt disclosures we needed to make if we had direct placements, and then GASB 90 had to do with majority equity interest. We noted no transactions which there was a lack of authoritative guidance. There was no transactions recognized in different periods than when they occurred. We evaluated the judgments and accounting estimates in the financial statements. The estimate that I want to draw your attention to is depreciation. Depreciation is how we charge through the cost of capital assets through operations on a systematic basis. Your methods and the estimates that I see as far as depreciation, what I would expect to see for a county, they seem reasonable. Nothing of note there, but I do like to point those out. There's also a handful of footnote disclosures that I'd like to draw your attention to. Note 3 talks about what sort of investments the county holds. Note 4 shows what sort of capital assets the county holds. Note 5 shows the different long-term debt obligations of the county. Note 9 talks about the commitments and contingencies. And then Note 14 gives some additional detail on the adoption of new accounting practices and policies. And then lastly, Note 15, which is subsequent events. And so subsequent events is really just like it sounds. It's any events that have occurred since December 31st, 2019 that we might want to make the readers of the financials aware of. And so that primarily consisted of 2 major matters. Additional leases that the county had entered into during early of 2020, as well as a disclosure about some of the potential impacts that the pandemic might have on revenue streams and the ability of county operations and what the county is doing to preemptively work to modify operations and plan for any revenue decreases that may or may not come in the future. We had no difficulties performing our audit. We never do. Your team is highly collaborative and has really only gotten better as time has gone on. Michelle, Tiffany, Eileen, Sam, really everybody from every department, when we ask for something, that we get it, and they're very courteous and prompt and helpful throughout the process. And so that just makes a great working environment and enables everyone to stay on the timetables that we needed to in spite of everything else going on. No material audit adjustments were passed on or proposed as part of the audit. We had no disagreements with management. As part of the audit process, management did sign a representation later. Just like it sounds, it's management saying they've responded truthfully and provided us with information when we asked for it, and they're not aware of any pending lawsuits or anything like that, or anything that we would need to know about that might have a financial impact that we would need to take into consideration when auditing the 2019 financial statements. There were no matters that affected our retention as the county auditors. Included in the financial statements are supplementary information in addition to your base financial statements, and so that primarily relates to combining an individual fund financial statements and, most importantly, your budget to actuals schedules for all of your different funds, because that's really how governmental entities manage operations. You adopt a budget for every fund and you manage to that budget and adjust that budget as you need to, and so each of those schedules provide some detail on that. The methods and presentation of that has not changed and is consistent with prior years. Any questions with regard to my auditor communications part before I move on to my the other parts of the presentation?
We're not seeing any here.
Double check chat, make sure.
Nope.
I don't.
Sorry, we're not seeing any questions here.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so like to go over a couple of accomplishments. So we partially implemented our corrective action plan, and then we successfully implemented a number of new accounting pronouncements. I really want to emphasize the second one. That was not an easy task. That took a lot of time on the part of your accounting staff there to not only get it done, but maybe not wait till last minute to do it. A lot of entities waited till last minute, and once the February came around, our time to do anything extra basically evaporated for everybody, and we were busy dealing with other things. And so your team had largely already done all their work related to this prior to that, and so they were prepared to do that. And I want to make sure to highlight that as an accomplishment for this last year, and excited to be ahead of the game in many instances. The next section is our management letter. So this is where we talk about any deficiencies in internal control that we'd like to bring to your attention. So you'll see two different definitions. You'll see material weakness and significant deficiency. A material weakness is just like it sounds. It could be, is there a weakness in the internal controls that would result in a material misstatement of either financial statement line items or grant compliance going undetected? And then a significant deficiency, while it does sound a little draconian and serious, it's really just it's less severe than a material weakness, but it's something that still merits the attention of those charged with governance, which in the county's case is the Board of County Commissioners. And so we did note one significant deficiency, and it has to do with internal control over foster care, special tests and provisions controls. And it's a repeat of prior year finding. The county did implement many of the elements of the prior year corrective action plan, but there's one key element that we would really like to see the county get implemented as far as reviewing a payment register before it goes out to the individual recipients for payments. And so the county's current year corrective action plan has a two-phase review process whereby it'll be reviewed within the department, which is your Human Services Department, and then I believe the Finance Department will also review it prior to the release of that disbursement run for the month. Any questions with regard to that?
No. Nope, we're not seeing any here, Matthew.
Perfect, thank you. Okay, so the next slide has to do with GASB 95. And so as I mentioned, the GASB 95 was a kind of an emergency GASB that was issued. We started hearing about some rumors that it was going to be issued in February. They talked about it in their April meeting, and they finally made it effective in May of 2020. And just like I mentioned earlier, it stretched out or pushed out the effective dates of GASB 83, 84, many GASBs. And so I didn't include the GASBs on here that we've already implemented, but probably the most important one is your leases standard. That pushed out the leases standard. And we talked about it a little bit last year. The GASB changed what used to be called operating leases, how that'll be treated, and in the future we'll be booking intangible right to use assets as well as some sort of liability, where operating leases were not historically booked on the books. And so that's pushed this out, and so this will help many different entities implement the standard, and they can concentrate on dealing with the current day situations rather than implementing accounting standards. Next couple slides talk about federal grant recovery funds. So as you may have read in the subsequent events footnote disclosure in the financial statements, the county has been allotted some of the money as a result of the pandemic programs that have been implemented at the federal and state level. And so since the county has already worked with grant funds in the past, I don't necessarily anticipate this being as big a deal as many other entities that haven't worked with federal grant funds. But I do want to draw your attention to that, because this is new funding, and whether it's from FEMA or another governmental agency, there's typically unique compliance requirements that are unique to that grant funding, which may or may not be what we've been used to doing in the past. And because it's new, it's always a little more risky than things we've done for many years and have a great understanding of. It's kind of a double-edged sword. You're happy to get the funding to help address the situation, but it's always, sometimes the devil is in the details as far as some of the different I's that need to be dotted and T's that need to be crossed as far as getting your documentation and processes up to snuff and making sure you're using those funds. Many entities also have had to work through projecting cash flows. I know your team was on top of this. When we talked to them in April, they were already looking at their cash flows, kind of reaching out to other organizations, seeing what they're seeing as far as what could be the potential impacts of the pandemic on cash flows of the county, and making management decisions based on that. And so this is just a good reminder of looking at all the different revenue streams and expenditure categories, and kind of projecting out as we continue to navigate through this process, understanding how much fund balance reserve we might have, and then understanding how that might affect our either hiring decisions or spending decisions in the next several months. And like I said, your team has been on top of this, but it's always a good reminder that it's a highly dynamic environment we're all working in, even more probably dynamic than most of us are used to. And so it's just a good reminder to kind of focus on that. Here's a management representation letter. I was not going to go through the entire financial statements because we did do that at the study session. So if there's no further questions, I do want to stress clean opinions across the board, just that internal control matter that we communicated, which has shown improvement, and I am confident will continue showing improvement, and really appreciate being of service to the county. We really appreciate the relationship, and really enjoy working with your entire team and coming down to the county. And hopefully this time next year we'll be actually having a in-person meeting, and we can actually visit you all during the audit versus having a virtual meeting, because it's really not the way me or Rosie like to work. And but I'll turn it off. Is there any further questions for me?
I've turned the audio on just to see if we can pass any questions along, but I don't see any from the dais, no.
Okay.
So just on behalf of County Manager Sam Albrecht, who is away on vacation, and I'm filling in here at the meeting for him with Michelle sitting next to me, I do want to echo Matthew's expression of appreciation for the team. This is the second year that I've been here for the audit process, and I have been just so impressed by how Michelle and her team have managed the audit process. It's really a blessing not to have to be distracted by the audit process and be able to focus on the really fundamental things about making the county work for all of our county residents. So we appreciate Ruben Brown and hope it continues. And I echo your desire to have a little bit, we will now appreciate your visits in the future when we're able to do it. Michelle's got a couple of things, I believe, that she wants to go ahead and say. I don't know if you're going to be able to hear her, but we'll give it a try.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning. Michelle Schroet, County Finance Manager. I really want to stand up today and thank my team, which when I say that is one person, Tiffany Hermes.
Hold on. We've got a little feedback going. There, I turned mine off.
So Tiffany not only does all of the technical work in our department, which includes AP, accounts receivable, payroll, she also helps significantly on this audit. So I would just hope that you all can thank her individually as well, because she does a lot to keep the county's finance department running while we're doing this audit. Additionally, I want to thank Sherry Hewlett and Dallas Schroeder today, because I had a lot more questions for them given our spatial requirements this year, and they were immediate in their responses. So the fact that we were able to get this audit done on time, on our original timeline, really has to do with everybody in the county getting their information together and up to us. So thank you to everybody who helped do that this year.
Thank you, Michelle. Yeah, actually, yeah, this whole year's been kind of the definition of awkward, and being able to pull everything together on the same timelines. I don't know if Matthew and Rosie can hear us either, but definitely appreciate their flexibility and ability to make things happen from a distance. So that was tremendous. So thanks. That's all right. Anything from you guys? Sure.
Yeah, I just got one quick comment. As a statement to the citizens of Elbert County, would you say that the economic situation in Elbert County as of the end of the 2019 was sound, and that it looks like that we've been managing the finances of the county well? Yes.
Well, as we had talked about in the past, and we kind of went over it last year as far as some metrics, the county did have some fund balance built up, which was around the minimum required minimum recommended by the state as far as allowing for some reserves to operate in some of these situations where we have some unplanned circumstances come up. And so many entities have had to make very drastic decisions as far as what they need to do to continue operations. And so while the county has had to make some decisions, I don't know that they've been, I would characterize them as drastic as of yet. And so I'll let the county's actions and my fiscal position speak to that. But I would say really hard to make sure they put the county in a sustainable financial position. And it's just a highly dynamic environment. I don't think really any of us know where things are going to go in the future as far as what that's going to be the hardest part of operating. But I feel confident that because your team is collaborative and proactive, I think you're in a good position. So.
And Rosie, you're also unmuted if you want to weigh in.
So I just know, and just following up with the commissioners and Sam and everybody on my communications with everyone, very proactive on dealing with the whole situation with the pandemic. Solid, financial position coming into this. So I feel pretty comfortable in the way that you've approached it and the way that you had planned for something. A lot of counties aren't in that position, so it was refreshing to see that you guys were very proactive and that you did have some reserves on hand to deal with a situation like this. And that's it.
Great. Well, we appreciate your patience. We will be talking to you soon about the next go-round. So.
Yep, and I'm getting more and more information on the CARES Act funding, so as I get anything of note, I'll pass it on to the county and work with Michelle and Jim and the team to make sure that we get all the information we have. So.
Sure, that will be very helpful. That's a big question mark for all of us right now. So.
Right.
Thank you so much. Have a great day. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Take care.
you.
Bye.
Thank you, commissioners, for your patience on that.
No problem. All right, so our last discussion item today was just a reorganization of HHS and establishing a separate Department of Health as a direct report to the county manager versus combined with Human Services. We talked at our last Board of Health meeting, but as a Board of Health, we don't have the authority to direct reorganization of the county. That has to come to a Board of County Commissioner meeting. So this was kind of the first step. We had a re-diagram. I know Dwayne is off at the moment, but I think before our next meeting, what we were looking for is kind of what his ideal structure looks like, and then how we intend to fill those gaps that we don't currently have on hand, either through contract or partnership with surrounding counties. Certainly, this is a year where it's become clear that our Department of Health has become a focal point and is going to probably be much more active for this year and perhaps over the next few years than we have been in the past, with really just tracking rabies and doing septic inspections. It's definitely the whole new level thing. So bringing Dwayne up to the level of a department head, I think, is the absolute right direction. So do you guys have anything you'd like to add or see for the
I support
next
it.
meeting? So
Yeah, I support it, and I assume this will be an action item at the next meeting.
I
Yeah.
hope so, yeah.
Dwayne has done a good job.
No, I just think the way things are going, it's time to split them up like it has been in the past, and hopefully we can provide some more services to the citizens of the county as we get COVID funds in and move forward.
Okay.
And commissioners, I would only add one thing, which is we are currently actively recruiting for a public health nurse, which is a position that we have not had filled at Albert County for a while. So if there are any citizens who are listening who might know somebody who's a registered nurse with a concentration in public health, I would encourage them to go out and take a look at our website and let us know of their interest. We're really eager to get somebody on board.
Alrighty. Thank you. And like I said, I know Dwayne has been working overtime to build capacity, whether through its partnership with Peak Vista, contract with folks to follow up on those active cases that we have. I know it's much more than that, but we've had just a tremendous increase in our capacity over the last few months, and I think it's certainly the right time to do this. So. Alrighty. So moving on to action items, we have a couple of sets of minutes and then acceptance of our audit report for the year. So with that, I'd accept a motion to approve with the BoCC minutes from June 24th.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we approve the June 24th, 2020 BoCC minutes as written and dispense with the reading of those minutes.
I'll second.
I have a motion and a second to approve the June 24th BoCC meeting and dispense with the reading. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Next item we've got is the Board of Health meeting from the minutes from June 24th.
I'll make a motion, we approve the June 24th, 2020 Board of Health meeting minutes and dispense with the reading.
Second.
A motion and a second to approve the Board of Health minutes from June 24th and dispense with reading. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. And the last item we have for action is acceptance of the 29 audit report that we just received.
Mr. Chairman, I move that we accept the Albert County Reuben Brown 2019 audit as presented.
I'll second.
The motion and a second to accept the audit results from 2019. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Okay. So board planning, obviously, we'll have action regarding the establishing of a directorate of public health. I think prior to the next meeting, next week we do have Board of County Commissioner Town Hall scheduled in Agate and Elizabeth. I believe Agate on Wednesday.
That's correct. Agate School's on Wednesday, and Elizabeth Middle School, you know, of course, pending confirmation on whether those school facilities are still available to us and able to be distanced. So we'll have some more information on the website as well.
We'll keep that going on social media then. Is there anything specific you want to see next week?
Not at this
or
time.
Next meeting?
So I do believe 22nd we have an update of the memorandum of understanding between CSU and Albert County for our extension programs. Nothing remarkable, just an update to a long-standing MOU. I don't know if Bart's got any additional input, but
it's an update for something that's been in place for a long time, 10 plus years. So it was time for an update, and we've worked hard to make that happen. And
We have
so,
computers now and stuff.
Yeah, it should be up to date with some of the modern day concerns that certainly weren't in place back in 2009 or whenever it was adopted. So.
Okay.
Then we, for land use, next week we have Quail Run, don't we?
Or the 27th.
That's what I meant to say, yes. Next meeting, I should say.
Okay. And then anything that may spill over from today. Okay. So we will be meeting next at 1 p.m. over at the fairgrounds for several land use items. There's quite a bit on there. We will roll until 5 p.m. If we're not finished at 5 p.m., we'll continue the items that aren't heard until a date time certain. We'll determine at that point. But so for now, we are in recess. It's 10:13. We will resume this meeting, as I said, over at the Ag Building at the fairgrounds at 1 p.m. Thanks.
It was interesting, all those people here. I was wondering why they were here. They were here for the Queen. Yeah.